Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, looking at how to raise money to get your communities active. We have been joined today by the wonderful Becky Evans from Sport England and also Chris West from Portsmouth Force Basketball Club. Becky's going to be talking through the really exciting match funding or extra funding opportunity, we call it here at Crowdfunder from Sport England, which I'm sure all of you here want to find out more about. And then Chris is going to talk to you about not only his most recent successful crowdfunding campaign, but his two campaigns that he's run with us over recent years, both of which have also received money as match fund pledges from Sport England. So he'll be able to impart his knowledge, give you all some inspiration and some hints and some tips on how to crowdfund successfully and access that great match funding opportunity. Before we get started, let's just go through a little bit of housekeeping. So we have allowed 60 minutes for this session. That does include a Q&A at the end. So please do use the chat box, which I've already popped a few messages into. Use that to introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from in the country, maybe what sport or physical activity that you are delivering at the moment, the name of your organisation, or maybe even the project name if you have a live project on Crowdfunder at the moment. You can also ask any questions into that chat box, as well as using the Q&A option if you would prefer, and we'll get through as many of those questions as we can towards the end of the session. This is a live webinar. However, we are recording the whole thing, so we will make sure that we share that replay link with you as part of a follow-up email, and that will also contain any links to the resources that we mentioned today, so you'll have everything you need to start your crowdfunding journey. Now, if you find that you have any issues with your internet connection, the best thing to do is just to leave the live webinar and then use the registration link just to join back in. You may well lose the information from the chat box. Just pop a message into there and we can bring you back up to speed. If you are viewing the slides and you can see kind of my little video sitting somewhere on top of the slide, the best thing to do is to actually click the view option, which you should find in the top right corner of your screen, and select side by side speaker view. Okay, so what we're going to go over today is not only the exciting match funding opportunity from Sport England and the benefits of crowdfunding, but also looking forward to 2025 and people's fundraising needs. Maybe now is the time that you're thinking about developing a fundraising strategy for next year. And what we want to consider and what is a good thing to have in mind is the reasons why it's a great idea to actually be diversifying those income streams, so those fundraising and revenue streams. There are lots of benefits to doing this, especially as a profit with purpose or a not-for-profit organisation or charity. Primarily, it can reduce that financial risk. So by kind of spreading your fundraising activity across different streams is really going to help you to make sure that you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. We all know that at the moment, the fundraising landscape is very competitive. And what you want to make sure you can do is pivot and actually bring in money from different areas to make sure that you remain financially resilient and sustainable. And also when it comes to rolling out any programs of delivery, that you're able to tap into different areas where there might be money and funding available. It's also a really great way to keep engagement productive and proactive with your donors. Creating exciting ways in which they can support you can really help them to remain engaged with you as an organization and can develop some really loyal donor relationships as well going forward. It can help you to unlock new opportunities. So that might be new partnerships, that could be new corporate sponsorship as well. And of course, those match funding opportunities that we're going to talk about today. There are lots of really valuable reasons why you should be considering thinking about lots of different ways in which you can bring in revenue and money into your clubs and organizations going forward for the long term. One of those could well be crowdfunding and accessing match funding opportunities. And that's what we're going to focus on today and see how those ways of bringing in money and raising money for your clubs can play a really pivotal role in making sure that you can not only remain resilient going forward, but can finance those programs of delivery as well. So Crowdfunder UK, for some of you, crowdfunding might be a completely new concept. You might not have raised money digitally at all before, and you might not be aware of crowdfunding as a concept. So just to take it right back to basics, Crowdfunder UK has been up and running now for around 13 years, and it's the UK's leading rewards-based crowdfunding platform. So, crowdfunding as a concept is essentially raising money from those around you, so your crowd or your network. What Crowdfunder UK does is allow and enable project owners to offer rewards, which are a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. We'll look in a bit more detail about the types of rewards that you could offer on your crowdfunding campaign page. Ultimately, it's a really lovely way to not only incentivize somebody's giving, but to give something back to those supporters that are helping you to raise the all important money that you need. How it works in its most simplest form is you would sign up with a free account to crowdfunder.co.uk. You would create a unique page which is telling your story. So, explaining who you are as an organization, what your project aims are, maybe the community impact that you already have and are looking to achieve. You would also set a target, and you are in complete control of how much money you need to raise and then how long you would need to run that project in order to raise that money. You would then think about adding any rewards if you would like to onto your campaign page. You'd also apply for any extra funding. So those match funds that you could be eligible for. We'll look again in more detail about the type of funding that is on offer and of course the Sport England match fund that is available. If you are eligible for any of the match funds on crowdfunder.co.uk, you can apply for those through your project page. You would then go on to launch your project. And this is really key. It's up to you as project owners to then spread the word with your friends and your family and your networks in order to signpost people to your online page and then to make donations digitally through the crowdfunding campaign page. Of course, the primary benefit of crowdfunding is raising the money that you need in order to make your project happen. However, there are lots of things that people don't necessarily realize when setting up their campaign. There are really wonderful benefits that come along with raising money in this way. First of all is the validation in what you're doing. It can be a really wonderfully low risk way of seeing if there is an appetite for what you're doing. So by running a crowdfunding campaign, putting your story out there and promoting it to your crowd, you will soon find if there is an appetite and if people want to see you deliver what you're saying you're going to. It can really help as well because there isn't a huge financial outlay in order to do this. So you can run a crowdfunding campaign very inexpensively. It does take time and it does take effort, but there isn't a real need to put lots of money up front in order to actually run your campaign. So this can be a really low risk way of seeing if what you're trying to achieve is going to land well within your community. It can help build awareness around what you're doing. So creating a buzz around your idea and getting people excited around you to see you actually deliver this project. That could be because you're really connecting with beneficiaries within your community. It could just be that actually you have been flying under the radar a little bit as an organization, and it's a brilliant opportunity to shout about the wonderful things that you do and engage not only your key networks, but maybe local press, local radio to actually shout about how wonderful you are as an organisation and build awareness that way. Everybody that supports a crowdfunding campaign will automatically become advocates of your organisation and what you're doing. We are advocates for projects and organisations here at Crowdfunder as well. And that will really help to grow your network. People will organically start to talk about your project, you as an organization, the great things that you do, and that will help to build an engaged audience that can lead to some really meaningful connections going forward. That might lead to partnerships or sponsorships or in-kind support, maybe increased volunteering as well. You will no doubt learn some new skills. This is something that, as I mentioned, might be quite alien to some of you initially, we have all of the resources available to support you to do this successfully. And before you know it, you will be crowdfunding like a pro. Lots of these skills can be transferred into different areas of your organization. Things like networking, things like developing engaging copy and promoting, even just creating an engaging story and making sure that you can tell that story effectively are things that might not necessarily come naturally. But as I mentioned, we've got a whole wealth of resources so we can support you in doing all of those things. And then, of course, the extra funding, which is a huge incentive to want to come and crowdfund with us. We work with both national and regional partners in order to distribute match funding to eligible projects. You can see all of our available match funds or extra funds, we call them, on our website. And I'll make sure to share the link in a moment into the resources tab so you can have a little look. There's over £10 million worth of match funding available. The exciting thing about our match funds is you can apply for more than one of them. So if you are fortunate to be approved for more than one fund, you can actually piggyback those pledges and those funds up in your crowdfunding campaign. And that can really be a massive boost towards hitting your target. In terms of the process of crowdfunding and why we know it works so well for organizations that are working within the sport and physical activity sector, is you have so many things that good crowdfunding campaigns need in order to be successful already at your fingertips. Because of the nature of engaging in sports, sorry, and physical activity, you will have a ready-made crowd, whether that's members, whether that's, as I mentioned, beneficiaries, whether that's members of the community who come and engage with your program of delivery already. They are your core audience and your core crowd. So make sure you're engaging with them through all of the process of not only planning your crowdfunding campaign, but promoting it as well. You have a shared passion and drive. There will be a group of you that want to see this happen. So make sure you utilize those people around you, the team of people around you, and build those really key people and utilize their skill sets as well. So within your team, and that could be members or volunteers or a committee, what you want to do is make sure you've got different voices that can really add to your crowdfunding campaign. Somebody might be brilliant at creating engaging copy. Somebody might be a whiz at social media. Utilize their skills. The best way to do this is collaboratively. We always kind of champion that collaborative approach. So wherever possible, bring in other people around you to help you do this successfully. The chances are you are already known within your community. Sports organisations, sports clubs, organisations that are delivering some kind of connected physical activity, they normally, 99% of the time, are fairly influential and known within the community. So make sure you work with that. Start building up your social media platforms if they don't have a huge following. Build upon that now in preparation of running a campaign. Engage the local press, engage the local radio stations to get behind you. Think about others as well within your network. So think about schools, colleges, other organizations which either are delivering similar things to you or share that kind of vision that you have to enhance the offering for your local community and get them promoting and sharing on your behalf. You can set really exciting fundraising challenges if you want to. You know, you have the capacity to think outside the box. Maybe you've got a premises where you could actually hold an event, get people doing in-person fundraising activities, make it fun, challenge people to get involved in that way, and it will help them take ownership of part of that process for you, and that will really help drive the campaign along. With that network, you can lean upon them to not only share your project and help promote it, but maybe they could offer a reward as well that you could list onto your campaign. And that might be a voucher or a product or a service from a local business, for example. Some sports out there, you know, some sports organizations or clubs may well even have some alumni that have gone on to do this professionally that you can call upon to actually share on your behalf to their networks. Or maybe there's been a celebrity that's worked their way through the ranks that used to come and train at your club or with your organization. See if you can reach out to them. It's always worth a try and see if they might repost something onto their social media platforms. And then, of course, that community impact. You will be already having positive community impact. Make sure you shout about that when telling your story, and then also make sure that you are showcasing what you do through images as well. Images, videos, testimonials. Let people know the wonderful work that you're already doing, and how you're going to continue to build upon that if you raise the money as well. Just looking here at some of the numbers over recent years. So looking at just sports projects, so projects that have come through raising money for some sport or physical activity, program of delivery, have managed to raise over £38.5 million between them. They've been supported by over 440,000 individuals within their communities. Over 7,000 projects have actually come through and crowdfunded on Crowdfund UK. And in terms of that extra funding, just from our sports partners alone, we've managed to distribute £11.3 million. That's not including those additional extra funding partners that we work with. So some of those projects would have also received money from maybe their local authority or one of our national funding partners as well. Now, somebody who's managed to run not only one, but two very successful crowdfunding campaigns is the wonderful Chris West from Portsmouth Force Basketball Club, who's joining us today to talk to us about his most recent campaign and also the possibility of doing this repeatedly and actually accessing those match funds. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
You're welcome. Yeah, very well, thank you. Joe, I've just been sat here while you've been talking, looking at all of the different groups that people have been putting up, and there's some really inspiring stories coming up in the chat, which is I don't know whether people are doing it on purpose, but those succinct messages are the perfect way for communicating what they're trying to achieve and why they're trying to achieve it. It's nice to sit back and just read it.
I love that. And you're in a position now, having done this successfully a few times, to know exactly what works, which is brilliant. So I think everybody can take Chris's advice on that one. Whatever you've just put into the chat, steal it, copy and paste it, and that's your basis for your project. Chris, would you mind telling us a little bit about both of your campaigns that you've run over recent years? And I will make sure I share the link to that one in the resources tab in just a sec.
Yeah, of course. So essentially the two campaigns have been very similar, and it's been to support our growth strategy. So as a basketball club, we were formed in 2022, and it was at a time, obviously, when the world was coming back to more of the normal as we knew it from 3 years before that. And we really wanted to get more kids playing more basketball, being active within the community. Basketball's an expensive sport when it comes to all of the officiating, coaches, court hire, etc., etc. And we never wanted finances to be a barrier to entry for a lot of kids because Portsmouth does have some deprived areas into it, but we wanted all of those people to be able to come and join. Obviously, the more kids that come in, the more coaches that you need, the more equipment that you need, the more sports hall hire time that you need to book, etc. So these campaigns have been absolutely essential in order to help us maintain what we've got and also grow significantly. So from within the last, so we now have over 350 kids playing basketball at least once a week, over 200 playing at least twice a week. We've developed our girls program has grown by over 50%, which was a key part for us. And if anyone knows any girls in Portsmouth that might be interested in playing basketball, it wouldn't be right for me to not be here and plug that. Um, but then the other parts, which without having favourites, I do have a favourite, is the SEN sessions that we've developed now. So we now have 16 kids who wouldn't ordinarily have been able to access basketball opportunities, playing in specialised sessions, working with myself and an occupational therapist as well.
That's amazing. And I'm guessing that kind of running these campaigns have helped you to build upon that and develop those so much further. So you looking at the most recent campaign here, you raised just over £15,000 from 130 supporters, which is a huge amount of
Yeah.
your community getting behind you. And you received a pledge from Sport England Movement Fund, so that was the just over £7,000 there. One
Yeah.
thing that I'd like to ask is, in terms of those 130 supporters, do you think that they were people that had supported you before, or was this a completely kind of new audience, or have they repeatedly supported you when you've run these campaigns?
Both. We had the lovely mixture of people that were uh, highly invested within the club, passionate about what we're trying to do and believe in that. But we also had a number of new supporters in there as well, which came from individuals and also people stepping forward and wanting to sponsor teams, etc., and putting a large pledge through there. So what it's helped to do, if I mention the SEN sessions, for example, is people that have attended that, who those sessions weren't there the year before because we didn't have the money available, and the first crowdfunder campaign helped with that. They've then spread the word about this campaign to um, friends of theirs who've also supported and then have also joined the club into these sessions. So it's this really positive virtuous circle that can happen as a consequence.
I love that. That really kind of goes back to what we were well, what I was trying to talk about at the beginning, those benefits. So not only have you got advocates, you've then built awareness and then you've developed those relationships as well. And now you're kind of doing it all again. They're coming back to you and helping support you a second time, which is really exciting. One thing I haven't pre-warned you about, but one thing I would love for you to just talk about briefly, if you don't mind, and you did this really well in the initial campaign, and you've just done this again, is some of your rewards and the fact that you've managed to get quite creative and actually develop like a line of one-off kind of merchandise.
Yeah,
How has that gone down? I
there
know
we
it was
go.
really successful the first time. Have you got one on?
Yeah, I have. There we go.
Yay. Were they t-shirts last time, if I remember
Yeah,
right?
so last time we did limited edition t-shirts and hoodies. They were darker blue and then had the logo on there, which was sort of in gold on there. This time around, you can see the picture in the background there of the team. They wear a reversible shirt, so it's either the blue that matches this, yellow. So we did blue and yellow t-shirts and hoodies, and we also then did pink ones because we'd previously done a limited edition range of pink t-shirts for breast cancer awareness. So we stuck to those three colours. Unsurprisingly, yellow was the least popular. Um, Blue was the most popular, but the pink ones, in a we assumed incorrectly that it was going to be mostly ladies, girls who came forward and bought that because they'd been the ones coming to say that to us. But actually, it was probably a 50-50 split of what came forwards for the pink range as well. So we made sure we had them, but then we also asked people within our community about what they could put forwards. So other prizes that we had there that physiotherapists gave a couple of sessions there. Coaches within our club, so two of the coaches put forward sort of one-to-ones, which people that came forwards and pledged for. Restaurants was a really popular one as well. Skate parks came forward. So we had a whole range of different things that could be purchased. Um, the key is, from my perspective, that you get things at different price points because when you run the campaign, you've got the two aspects for it. One is the financial measure, and the other part is about the number of supporters. So we needed to get to 14,500 from 100 supporters. So by having things at a lower value, it enables more supporters to come in and contribute as well. We also encourage every one of our supporters to leave a comment on there as well, because by commenting, it makes it much easier for them to share and for others to see what's happening.
That's really important, isn't it? And getting that engagement, that's really key for you going forward. If you've got all of those lovely comments of support, that not only makes great content for you to promote it, taking those and maybe
Absolutely.
using them on social media, but looking back, in years to come, when this is a distant memory, you can actually kind of draw upon that and go, yeah, this is what we did actually funding person over here that I'd like to apply for a grant from. We've managed to
Yeah,
achieve this, and this is the support our community gave us. So it can
absolutely.
work in many powerful ways, and it doesn't just stop when the crowdfunder ends, does it? You know, you've got all of that to draw upon. In terms of
100%.
looking forward to 2025, then, Chris, and we laughed about this, didn't we, earlier? Because I asked you this question when I got you on a webinar after your first successful campaign. And I said, do you think you'd do it again? And what did you say?
Maybe.
And here you are.
Yeah. And yeah, the next question answer is maybe.
And in terms of this type of fundraising playing a part then kind of for the future of the club, do you think that it's something that would be worth factoring into a fundraising strategy for people? So you've obviously still probably doing grant applications, you're still probably doing in-person events, but where does this method of fundraising factor into an overall strategy for you guys?
It's become essential. If we want to be able to continue the growth and ultimately getting more kids playing, in our case, basketball, it's essential to us. As I mentioned earlier, we try and keep costs as low as possible, so it's never becomes a barrier to entry for kids coming to join in. But in order to sustain the growth that we're having and the growth that we want, we need people. We need other revenue streams. Um, we we actually had a number of parents coming to us saying, "When's the next crowdfunder campaign going to be happening?" And that was the moment that I thought, "Yeah, we got to go in again." And what was
Amazing.
lovely is, yeah, there was a full commitment from everybody once it did happen because um, the numbers looked great at the beginning, and as we were talking about earlier, the key to it and my real advice for everybody is do not launch a campaign until you are 100% ready. Um, for most projects, you're going to get two-thirds of the people that visit will do it. Ours ran for a month. Um, two-thirds, probably over two-thirds of that came within the first week. And of that, probably 50% of it came within the first day. So if you're not fully prepped, delay the launch of your campaign by a day, 2 days, a week, whatever it may be. This time round, I thought the first one worked pretty well. This time round, I think we pushed it back by a couple of weeks because a few bits weren't quite right.
And that's really important, isn't it? And there's almost a slight misconception that so much of it happens when you're live. Whereas actually, you need to be in a strong position, don't you, to go live. So actually putting in the preparation and the planning in those early stages, and that can go on for some organizations.
Yeah,
That could be a couple of months of, talking with different members and volunteers to make sure that they get the messaging right and all of those things. Applying for any extra funding before you go live. That's a really good piece of advice as well, isn't it? So when you hit that go live button, everything's in place. All your ducks are in a row. And then
100%.
it's the exciting bit of getting the word
Yeah,
out.
yeah, 100%. And that's the bit for anyone here to take away from this that I would say just make sure you got it right because I've got the the dashboard's really helpful because it shows you when you've had all of the traction, the new visitors, the donations, etc. And what you see is the big spike and then it come back down, which like any campaign, just make sure that you got it ready and ready to go.
Definitely. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, a little bit further on in the session, because that's a really good thing for people to be mindful of is not only utilizing their project dashboard to see the trends of what's happening, but also that there will be a bit of a dip and to not be too disheartened. But
Oh,
if
it
you've
becomes
done
an obsession. Looking at that dashboard becomes an obsession when you see the money start to come in and
I
know the
love it.
difference it will make.
So you mentioned before we came on camera, you mentioned that you might pass the baton to somebody else next year. I don't know if you'll be able to. I think you're well and truly in this now for the long haul. You've got the
You,
bug,
you,
Chris.
you're probably right. But one of the things I'm totally open with is if somebody could come along and see things and do it bigger, better, awesome. There's no ego from me attached to that. But I do like it.
I love it. Chris, are you going to be able to hang on for a little bit, just in the wings while we go through a little bit more content about the crowdfunding element and movement fund, and then welcome you back for the Q&A towards the
Yeah,
end, if
yeah,
that's
no problem
okay.
at all.
If anyone's got any questions for Chris and his experience with crowdfunding, not once, but twice, incredibly successfully, please do pop them in either the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll get those as part of the Q&A. Thank you so much, Chris, and we'll see you
Wonderful.
in a little bit.
See you in a bit.
Cheers, bye. Okay, so what would be great now? We've heard obviously Chris's experience. Hopefully that's given you all a little bit of inspiration as well. It is a lot of work. There's a lot of work involved in doing this successfully, but it's fun and it can be really exciting as well, and a little bit addictive, as Chris has just pointed out. But here to talk to us about the really exciting movement fund, so the match funding opportunity from Sport England, is the wonderful Becky Evans from Sport England. Hi, Becky, how are you?
Hi, hi Zoe. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'm doing okay today. Been a busy day, so yeah, but it's lovely to come on and have the opportunity to talk about probably one of my most favorite aspects of my job at the moment.
Oh, that's
Um,
lovely. I will hand over to you. I've put a link for anybody that would like to have a look at the eligibility criteria in full, and the fund itself. There is a link to the movement fund in the chat box at the moment, but Becky's going to talk through a little bit more about what's on offer and the types of projects that Sport England are looking to support. So I'll hand over to you, Becky.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So my name's Becky Evans. My day-to-day jobs is I'm an investment advisor for Sport England. I spend most of my day chatting to people, organisations that are like yourselves, supporting and running sport and physical activity projects within their local community. I'll speak to people about the funding that we have open and help them shape their projects, so that potentially they can be eligible to apply. The Movement Fund launched in April of this year. It offers awards of between 300 and 15,000 for 12-month projects that look to challenge inactivity and inequalities. To be eligible to apply for the Movement Fund, you need to be a not-for-profit organisation. So, for example, a charity, sports club, community interest company. It's an ongoing programme. There's currently no closing date, so you can apply at any point over the next few months, and it's currently taking between 3 and 6 weeks for a decision. A lot of you are here, so you already realise there's a crowdfunding element to the Movement Fund. The Movement Fund offers grant awards and pledge awards. So our crowdfunding offer is that we can offer 50% up to £15,000 of your project costs. It's usually a conditional offer of you reaching your crowdfunding target and receiving pledges from the minimum number of supporters, which varies depending on the amount of funding that you have requested. We're really keen to support projects that challenge inequalities. So we understand that access to sport and physical activity isn't equal for everybody. And our research and work has shown us that there's numbers of groups within our communities that do not have the equal access to those opportunities and the benefits that they can bring. So we're really keen to hear from projects that are targeting people, for example, that are on low incomes, working with people living with disabilities, girls aged 5 to 16, people from the LGBTQ plus community, people in foster care, and people who provide care without pay, just to name a few of our priority groups. So we're really keen to offer that opportunity for resources for organisations that are removing those barriers to sport and physical activities and working with some of our priority groups. There are a couple of ways you can apply to the Movement Fund. If you're not already crowdfunding, you can pop along to our website, read through our guidance and apply via our website. If you are already crowdfunding, you can complete the application that's available through the crowdfunding site as well. So to add value to your applications, we really want to know about who will benefit from your project, where the project is needed, how you'll deliver those benefits, any barriers that that group currently faces, and how your project will remove those barriers, what the sustainability of the project is, and providing us with a real clear project plan and budget breakdown. But it's, like I said, it's been, we've supported, and working alongside Crowdfund, we've supported well over 1,000 projects. It's been something that's been quite a positive piece of work for Sport England. And a lot of organisations that we've helped and support, including Chris from Portsmouth, have found the experience really positive, and they've been able to access so many more benefits other than just receiving the funding. So like I said, it's been really positive. After this webinar, along with Crowdfund, you're very welcome to give us a call, drop us a line with any questions that you might have.
Amazing. Thank you, Becky. And yeah, just to kind of reiterate what Becky was saying there, that Sport England are really supportive and really engaged with projects accessing the movement fund. So if you have any specific questions to do with your project and your eligibility, we'll make sure that we share the contact details. They'll be up on the final slide, but we'll put them in the follow-up email as well. So you can contact Sport England directly if you have any specific questions. Thank you so much, Becky. Are you able to stick around for the Q&A as well? I'm sure we'll have some questions coming through about the fund itself.
Yeah, no problem.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so Becky touched upon there as well, those two routes to entry for the fund. So two ways that you can apply. You can go direct to the Sport England website and contact them directly, and they'll be able to triage you into the best kind of match funding opportunity for yourselves and your project as part of the movement fund. If you are already within the crowdfunding world, so you might have set up a project, you could be looking to crowdfund because you are aware of those benefits that we've talked through and that obviously Chris has highlighted as well. And you think, yep, this is a great opportunity for us to raise some money. Let's see if we're eligible for those match funds as well. So you'd set up your crowdfunding campaign page. As part of that, you will be asked some questions, all to do with extra funding. First and foremost, you would need to tick the box to allow us to share your information, so your project information, with our match funding partners. And then you'll also be asked a few basic tick box questions as to who's going to benefit from your project, the type of project outcomes that you're looking to achieve. You would have already let us know whereabouts in the country you're based. And upon all of that information, we will be able to match you, or our computer system, I should say, will be able to match you with any of our funding partners that we think would be a good fit for your project. The Movement Fund, no doubt, will be one of those if you are a physical activity focused project, and all you would need to do is click apply through your project dashboard. It's generally a 10 to 15 minute application process. You can always take a look at those questions, go away, collate all the relevant information that you need, so you can submit those applications nice and quickly. Apply for everything that you've been matched with that you think would be a good fit for your project. There's no kind of upper limit as to how much match funding you can receive for a project from different organisations. Worst case scenario, it'll open up a conversation with your funding partners that say, well, actually, we can see lots of people are supporting you. Let's think about maybe a higher target so that you're actually crowdfunding for an element of this project as well. So we've seen lots of projects receive, a handful of different pledges from different organisations. And as I mentioned before, it can really boost your fundraising potential and really help to engage your community and your audience as well. It's something really exciting to share with them. In terms of the movement fund itself, and how kind of logistically it works, Becky touched upon there those milestones, so that those pledge milestones that you would need to hit in order to not only unlock the funding from Sport England, but then also secure it. So let's say in this instance, you've been approved for the movement fund. You would then start crowdfunding. So you'd go live with your project and you'd start promoting it to your network in order to raise 25% of your initial target which is the target that you have set yourselves at the beginning of your project, you need to raise 25% of that from a set amount of individual supporters. And those will vary depending on what your target amount is. Once you've hit that milestone, you will see a pledge land on your crowdfunding campaign from Sport England. You will see the amount that you've raised towards your target leap up by that pledge amount. And now you will go back out to your community and your crowd, shout about the fact that Sport England have just pledged this amount to your page. And now you need to bring in those donations to meet your target. So reach 100% of that initial target to secure the funding from Sport England. Once you've reached 100% of your target, you can always raise more. You can have something that we call a stretch target. And that means that you can have an additional goal in place to keep raising money whilst your project is still live. And that can be a really nice incentive for your supporters to continue to donate to your page, even though you might have reached that initial target. So your stretch target might be to fund all those additional kind of like the bells and the whistles, if you like, of your project. You've raised the amount of money you need to deliver your project, but you can always do with a little bit more to help to promote it or to build upon it even further. So think about an additional stretch target when you're thinking about the money that you need to raise. This is just a little snapshot of those required supporter numbers, dependent on how much money you're looking to raise. And when you're looking to reach out to those supporters, think about breaking your network up into kind of bite-sized chunks. So think about your core audience. You want to always reach out to those that are close to the project and close to you as an individual or a group of people in the first instance. And as Chris mentioned, people will support in those first days of your campaign launching. The most effective group of people to have donate to your project when it first goes live are the ones that are closest to your project. And that could even be friends and family, fellow volunteers, committee members, that core group and that core audience that have a real kind of vested interest in you as a project owner or the organization or the project itself. And then start looking slightly more outward with your promotion. So beyond that, you'll be thinking about you've got partners. So that could be suppliers, that could be venues, that could be businesses that have already supported you with sponsorship, for example. Look at things like community organisation and schools that are part of your network. Maybe engage them with some fundraising activity. You've got other sports clubs and organisations local to you, obviously social media, so Facebook, TikTok if you use it, Instagram, Twitter, or X, I should call it. Whatever works best for you already, use that as your primary focus for your social media platform promotion. You've got existing members, so that could be club members or people that already use your organisation, local press, local blogs, media, and then other groups. So thinking specifically at this time of year, there's lots of networking events going on, aren't there? And the lead up to Christmas. After Christmas and the lead up to spring, you have lots of different fairs, lots of different community engagement activities that are going on. Make sure that you've got a presence there for some in-person promotion and make sure that you're getting others to promote on your behalf as well. So utilize existing networks. We've mentioned extra funding a lot on this session, and just to highlight some of our partners that we work with, we have lots of different organisations, both nationally and regionally, lots of local authorities, some kind of bigger organisations such as the Aviva Community Fund from the Aviva Insurance Brokers, lots of different organisations that work with us to help to distribute funds to those eligible projects. So do check out the match funding page and the extra funding page on our website. One thing that's really key that Chris mentioned is making sure that you've got that really engaging story, that you're telling your story effectively, and that actually it's speaking to two different audiences. So those that know you already, they might already engage with what you do, and those that are just finding out about you for the first time. Your page and your story is what's going to really entice people to support your campaign. So make sure that it's got bags of personality, that it showcases all of the wonderful things that you do as an organization, and has some really clear aims as to what the money is going to be spent on. Be as transparent as possible with your audience, and be human. People want to connect with you as a project on a human level. So make sure you've got lots of great images in there. Highlight any key bits of information that you want people to see. Put those in bold. Maybe add some links to your website or maybe a bit of research which backs up what you're saying. Make sure you make it as engaging as possible. Add those rewards that we've mentioned as well. This is just a snapshot of some of the different things that people have added onto their pages. So it could be merchandise that you've created, just like Chris did with the basketball club. It could be things that have been offered to you in kind from different businesses and organizations that either have a link to your sport or your activity, or they have a link to your community. So it could be that there's a really popular local restaurant that actually everybody loves to go and eat at. Can they give you a voucher? Because that's going to go down really well with members of your community and their customers. So think about it being mutually beneficial. They gift you something to put on your crowdfunding campaign. You help promote them as a business or an organization, which hopefully drives their customer numbers and awareness around what they do. And they can also promote your campaign to their customer base. So it should be a mutually beneficial activity, adding these rewards onto your page. Think about different price points. Make sure you have some kind of lower priced entry level, if you like, rewards all the way through to some that might be in the hundreds. We've seen some that have put them in the thousands, and that might be sponsorship or really key high value rewards as well. But whenever you're listing rewards, try and make sure that they are maybe 20% lower priced than the RRP, just to incentivize people to claim them from your campaign page rather than direct on the high street. That just incentivizes people's giving a little bit more. We also talked about fundraising, so encouraging people to fundraise on behalf of the project. Brighton Surf Life Saving Club, after I just make my mouth work a little bit. They did this really successfully as part of their recent campaign with the Movement Fund. And as a surf lifesaving club, they've got lots of incredible swimmers who decided to take on swim challenges and actually swim set distances and raise money themselves from their own networks. And this is a great way to get people involved, give them a little bit of an incentive to kind of have some accountability and some ownership of raising money for their club that they're part of. And it can really help you as an organization to tap into some other networks as well through your own members or through people that engage with you. So think about a fun and exciting fundraising challenge that you might be able to set. Now, we have loads of support available to you. We have webinars such as this. We have our wonderful Knowledge Hub, which I've shared a link in the chat box. That is full of loads of wonderful kind of guides, resources for every single stage of your crowdfunding campaign. So do make sure you're using that as your one-stop shop for all of the knowledge that you need. We've got some great tailored email advice. When you sign up, you will receive emails from Crowdfunder and they will direct you in the right places in order to get all of the information that you need. We've got a wonderful customer support team who also have created all of our help centre. So any of those FAQs or any of those troubleshooting guides, if you come into any issues with, maybe the technical side of things, or you've got any questions, the help centre is the place to go. If you can't find the answer there, then of course, you just need to email our customer support team and they'll always be happy to help you and guide you. And then the live project dashboard that Chris mentioned. When you have a campaign on Crowdfund UK, you'll have a project dashboard and you can manage every single aspect of your campaign through this dashboard. You can also look at the activity that's been happening. So you can see any trends when it comes to donations. Maybe you've done a really great social media post that was actually really engaging, got loads of reshares, and then the following day you can see there's been a spike in donations. So you can look at what you're doing in terms of promotion and how that is impacting your campaign and where you might want to tweak things, try something different, and reflect on that. So you can look at all of those different analytics as well. You'll also be able to download any reports that you need. So, supporter details, anybody that's claimed rewards, all those really important bits of information. Okay, so thank you so much. We've come to the end of our content for today, but now is the time that I would love to welcome back Chris and Becky, and we can answer your questions that have come through. Hi, both. Thank you very
Hello.
much for waiting in the background there. We've had a few questions come in, and I'll dive straight into it. So, in terms of where are we? Da, da, da. Bear with me. I've just popped this one to the side. Okay, so somebody Tabs asked the question of they have a kind of a bigger project target than they'd be looking to crowdfund for. So their crowdfunder would just be a small element of a much bigger project. Is this something that they could crowdfund for? And from our standpoint, from a crowdfunding standpoint, absolutely. It's something that we see happen quite a lot. We quite often see skate parks that come through and crowdfund, and actually, they may be receiving grants, they may be receiving money from their local authorities towards making the skate park happen, but they will have a crowdfunding element to not only show that they have the capability to raise the money, but also it helps to build awareness around what they're doing. In terms of match funding, Becky, would a project be able to apply for match funding for a small element that they're crowdfunding for of part of a bigger project?
Yes, I mean they could, as long as it obviously fits with the priorities of the movement fund, challenging inequity and inequalities. Then yeah, we could fund through the movement fund through a pledge award, a small a percentage of that phase of that project.
Okay, fabulous. That's really, really good to know. And I think we have seen that happen, haven't we? And I know I keep talking about skate parks, but I'm sure one of the early applications for the Movement Fund was exactly that. They applied for a smaller element of a bigger project.
Yeah.
And that it can help to add kind of validation as well to what you're doing. You know, if you're crowdfunding for a smaller target, but you've actually got this big thing going on in the background, it can help to kind of highlight to anybody else that's looking to support financially that there is backing, especially if they've got a match fund pledge towards it, but also that there's community support for what they're doing. So definitely consider crowdfunding, even if it's a small element. This one comes up quite a lot, and I think it's really good to cover this off actually. So when setting a target, should the target include the match funding amount, or do they need to add that on top? So, for example, if their target was £30,000, does that include the match fund that they'd be looking to receive from Sport England?
Yes.
Yeah,
So, so if your target is 30, so if we'd offered 15,000, that would be 50% of a 30,000 target. So you need to set your target inclusive of our pledge award.
brilliant. Thank you. And I think, yeah, that's really, really key to remember. So your target needs to be the amount of money you need to get this project to happen. And that includes any match funding pledges you might be lucky to receive. Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Um, Chris, I just wanted to ask as well, just while I have a little look through the chat box, we've had loads of people talking about their projects, which is wonderful. I'm going to wade in and see if I can pick out some key questions. Would you mind talking through a little bit how you promoted your campaigns, the type of avenues that you might have used to promote?
Yeah, Joe, I had a question on this. It caused me to stop and think about exactly how we did the targeting. So we've got a database which has about 1,400 people on there. So that's a mixture of kids in the club, but also their parents. Um, what we've got to remember when I mentioned there were 350 kids playing each week, well, they're getting brought to all of those training sessions so that they're may be, they're also emotionally invested into the club as well. And that's where we can start to tap into different avenues around sponsorship. Because there's so many different professions of those parents who suddenly go, oh yeah, I could support with that. I could support with that. we also used our primary method was going out via Facebook campaign. We've got about 12, I think it's about 1,200 people that follow on there. Same on Instagram. But then we'd also fairly recently set up a LinkedIn account as well. So we were able to, you think of the two different, you kind of got Facebook and then grown up Facebook, which is LinkedIn, that they're very different people um, that are on there. And we achieved success via both avenues. Um, One thing I was useless at was doing the updates actually through the crowdfunder site. Totally useless. I don't know whether I even did one on there while the campaign was live, but we were keeping it live. Yeah, this is like a confession now coming out. Um, but what we were keeping people wholly updated through all of the other avenues that we have. We used to utilize who else do we do? Coaches to get it to share it in WhatsApp groups with parents, etc. So we were conscious as well of not looking like we were going around with a begging bowl. So because what we didn't want is for people, for example, that were on low incomes who maybe couldn't afford to contribute financially for them to feel awkward in any way. I think that's a long answer to your short question.
No, I think that was really good. It was some really good ideas there. And I think you mentioned there kind of trying to avoid that feeling of going around with a begging bowl. And I think something that's a good piece of advice for people is to think about there's always different ways that people can support the club. And it's not always just about giving financially. So if they're sharing your project with their networks, that's really helpful. If they are gifting a reward or they know somebody that has a side hustle or a local business that could gift a reward, that's really helpful too. If they are capable of doing a bit of fundraising themselves, brilliant, and actually they're tapping into a different network on your behalf. So there are lots of things that people can do, and that can become part of your messaging as well. So it's not just like give us money all the time. It's here are the ways that you can support us, and you're kind of
Yeah,
feeding people different options, which I think is really
I think
helpful as well.
yeah, I mean some of the things that we did. So each time we shared something, we highlighted. So when I was doing the crowdfunder campaign on LinkedIn, for example, well, and both, I would always include crowdfunder tagged into it as well, and then you guys would like it, comment on it, etc. We used I tagged Basketball England into everything. Wasn't always relevant for Basketball England, apart from we're a basketball club, but it then gets onto people's news feeds. Um, well, so the two different restaurants that helped us significantly with vouchers. We tagged them onto it as well. And somebody mentioned earlier about the t-shirts and hoodies, the way that it worked for us and how we raised the money. They gave us the hoodies at a significantly reduced, it was below cost for them. They gave it to us. But what we did in turn was we tagged them, shared them everywhere. And to date, we only finished about a month ago. They've now got 7 additional large projects which have come from the network that we have, and they're a local Portsmouth company as well. So it's like a true community type situation that's worked out for everybody there.
I absolutely love that. That just is exactly what I was trying to demonstrate earlier with that mutually beneficial kind of promotion. That it's not one-sided. Going and asking for a reward from somebody really do highlight the fact that you're going to be promoting this as much as you can, and the idea is to kind of champion the community businesses around you as much as it is to
Absolutely.
kind of bring in money for your own organization.
Also makes it easier for next year when you go back to them and ask them to do
Yeah,
it again.
exactly. What's really interesting actually that leads on a little bit to that somebody had asked if crowdfunder do promote individual projects on their social media channels, and you hit upon that, Chris. So yeah, the best thing to be doing is whenever you're putting anything out there on LinkedIn, on social media channels, to be tagging crowdfunder in everything that you do. And it will get picked up if things are getting traction out there in the world, and crowdfunder has it on their radar because you're tagging them in it. They will kind of reshare if it resonates with people here as well. We're all humans at crowdfunder, so it might pop on a LinkedIn post, and us as individuals may well. decide to share that as well. So just make sure you're tagging crowdfunder and any relevant active partners or active partnerships, sorry, or NGBs, just like you did, Chris. It's the best way to try and engage with them, isn't it? Is to get in their world, get on their radar. Amazing. I have just seen that we've run over ever so slightly by 1 minute. There's still some questions coming through. What I will do is make sure that any of those that we can respond to in those emails, we will do by way of a follow-up. It's been amazing to have yourself, Chris, here, and Becky as well. Hopefully there's been some really great information for everyone that's attended. We are here to support you and we're here to help you do this. So please do reach out. I'm just going to quickly share my final slide, which is how you can get in contact with us if you do need any additional support. All that remains to say is thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Becky. We look forward to seeing all of you raising the money that you need to get your projects happening in the coming months. And we wish you all a very Merry Christmas for the as we are in the lead up to festivities. Hope everyone has a great Christmas and a great New Year, and we'll see you all raising money next year. Thank you, guys.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.